Good morning, guys. You're watching the Shield Bearer of Faith in a far-off place. Thank you for being here. If you hear a dog barking in the background, I'm sorry. It's the old grumpy dog that apparently came kind of with this house that we're staying at. He's a German Shepherd. He's fat, he's grumpy, and he doesn't really bark. He kind of talks, kind of like a husky mix, maybe. We're drinking some instant Nescafe or something coffee. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible to get good coffee here. It's actually very easy. There's lots of places to get really good coffee. And one of my team members, who's not currently here, likes very quality coffee. He's got several methods of doing that. Not really my thing, though. So, I figured I'd give you all an update. We have arrived. Cat. Boop. We have arrived to our far-off place, right? And honestly, I'm glad to be back. It's good. We were able to pray with a guy. I think I posted a photo for you all on Patreon. We were able to pray with a guy as we were leaving Cyprus. He was a cab driver, and it was so apparently from God that it was cool. So on the last night that we were at the missionary gathering in Cyprus, there was a guy who spoke in the morning for about an hour, and then also they asked him to do like part 2 in the evening. His name was Adam, and he did a very good job, a very well documented job, meaning like biblically documented, lots of scripture, lots of research. He was very confident in his research as well. He said it was over the course of several years, and the topic was very much unusual from what you would find in a church of any kind. It delved really deep into a term that you see several times in the Bible of like the sons of God. And you'll see that in Psalm 82, where it's a psalm of Asaph, if I remember right. And he's describing that there's this great assembly in the heavens and that the sons of God have gathered. And then it goes on to talk about that they have messed up pretty much. And he did a really good documentation of this whole idea. And he went from Genesis to all over the place. This concept of evil fallen beings that have rebelled against God the Father, and that they disobeyed. So it wasn't just Satan, we all know that. They disobeyed the original purposes and jobs and goals and intent that they had. And on surface level, you might think, well, you know, why in the world would they do that? Well, humanity sure did that. Humanity still does that. So I don't think that we're immune from doing the same nonsense that these fallen beings have done. And this is where I get really fascinated, is it in Genesis describes like the Nephilim, which are this hybrid being, this corrupted flesh that is, I think, and this researcher said a similar thing, I think is where you get the idea of old gods, like Norse pagan gods, Egyptian gods, Greek gods, all of these other gods. Where you get that from is the idea that these fallen beings were on earth, are on earth in a spiritual realm. Now, we don't have a lot of description in Genesis of what that looked like, but this guy did a fantastic job. And the reason this was so cool was the guy that was driving us to the airport in Cyprus, he was asking that exact question of, well, what about these other gods throughout history? And unfortunately, this guy had a bad exposure to people that say they believe in and follow Jesus. He said his experiences with the Orthodox Church, and he's originally from Greece, but he now lives in Cyprus, and he spoke English, and he was asking me, you know, why is it that when I go to a church, he said, I've been before, but I don't understand what they're saying. He said they'll speak in Latin and they'll read the scriptures in Latin, and I don't understand it. And when I ask questions, nobody will answer it, and then they want money. They want my money. And he said, they don't ever give back to the community. They just take. That's terrible. That is a terrible representation of Christ, who just gave to whatever, you know, he just provided for the people that were around him. And he served the people around him. And that is a much better representation. So I spent an entire hour, it was a whole hour car ride going from the hotel we were at in Cyprus to the airport. And this guy just had so many good questions. He was genuinely interested. And my wife was there, my kids were there. And when he was asking this stuff, it was so interesting that we had just talked about the topic he was asking me about the night before. So I was a little better prepared than I would have been by far. I've heard the idea in a nutshell of what the topic was before, but never in such a well-documented way. And so I was much better prepared. So as I'm talking to this guy and I'm telling him what the Spirit did to me, and I'm telling him from that vantage point, hey man, this is what I think, but this is what I know based on what I feel and based on what happened. And here's the evidence. This is the changes that the Spirit did in me after I gave my life to Christ. And he, at one point, as I'm telling him honestly, the man that I was, the liar, the cheater, the adulterer, the porn addict that I was, as I'm telling him all of that, at one point, he looks at my wife, the mirror, he goes, what kind of man was he? And I'm right beside him. I'm in the front seat, she's in the back seat. And I said, babe, tell him, what kind of man was I? And so she told him. And I just described everything that she essentially described to him. And then he asked, what changed? What kind of man is he now? And she described that as well. Isn't that, in a nutshell, regardless of what topic starts the conversation, isn't that in a nutshell what we need to be doing as believers and followers, key wording there, followers of the Messiah? What does it mean to follow? It could be literally in a physical way. If you're walking down the street and I'm following you, I'm going the same direction you are. But I think in many cases, it's a closer connection than that, because you could be 100 yards ahead of me and I could still be following you. But it's much looser, right? Instead, I'd rather be in almost lockstep sequence with Christ and his desires for us as his followers. I'd rather be right beside him. Maybe he's 1 inch in front of me, but I'm desiring him so much that I go. When he steps, I start to step. When he starts to speak, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to receive it. I'm ready to go and do whatever his command is. And then I have to be willing to express to people through words, but more so through actions, why I believe what I believe. And me and the team here, we were reading the Bible yesterday, just a table Bible study. And we went to Ephesians chapter 3. And then we read in reverse order for some unknown reason. We just started at 3 because that's where someone's Bible app said the daily verse was from. So we read 3 and then we went back to 2 to get more context. But one thing we took away from that was that we need to represent the Messiah properly. And that's not entirely what those chapters were about, but that's a takeaway that we had. And then moreover, there are a lot of people here doing really great things in the name of Jesus. And that's really cool. That's very inspiring. Then there are some people that were doing really great things in the name of Jesus, and then they stopped. And I've heard some about that. Some people that I knew, whether they were Ukrainian or whether they were American or whatever, I've heard a few different stories, a few testimonies of various people that I had met that just stopped doing good deeds. They stopped following Christ as far as people could see anyway. It doesn't mean that they did stop following him, but that fruit of the Spirit wasn't as evident anymore. Case in point, this one pastor that we were associated with I was finding out yesterday we don't associate with anymore. So I asked, okay, why? Not to gossip, but so we had context. So I understood what's going on. And I was told that he, at one point, lied directly to the team, like blatantly, and they knew it. They knew the truth of what he was saying, and it was a lie. And then he stopped going and doing. He stopped serving. I said, well, what's he doing instead? They were like, we don't know. He spends most of his time at the actual church building and isn't really serving, isn't helping his community. So as a result, that's not what we're about. That's not what I'm about, for sure. And so we just didn't apparently associate anymore. We wish him well, but that's a common thread, and that's not just here, guys. How many people do you know? I'm sure all of you know at least one, that at one time did something you said to yourself, wow, that is cool. That is serving others, seeking no gain for yourself. That's serving others. And that's inspiring to me. And you observe that from someone. But then eventually it just becomes an old story. Instead of looking to what is God doing in you and through you now. Eventually it becomes just like most police stories, these old war stories that people want to tell of days gone by, and they don't have any new ones. I want to be part of a new God story, if he'll let me. I want my family to be part of a new God story. And they are. And they have been. They've been in many different places with me in the U.S. and otherwise that we have gotten to witness about Christ. And it was so cool when we get to the end of that cab ride and we witnessed to this man for an hour. I asked him, can I pray for you? Can I pray with you? And he said, yes, please. And so I prayed with him. I also advised him to start reading in the book of John. I asked him, I said, have you ever read the Bible? He said, yes, but I don't really know where to go. I said, why don't you start in the book of John? That was recommended to me one time. Maybe you should try it. He said, okay, John. I said, yep, the book of John, start there. And we prayed with him without me asking. My son prayed as well. Reached up, grabbed this man in my hand. My hand was on this guy's shoulder. And my wife got a picture of it. That's the goal, guys. It's not to brag. It's not to boast in anything other than Christ. But my kids learn by doing and seeing and listening to what I do. Many things that I don't even know I'm doing. And if they can glean anything, I'd really like it to be those kinds of things. So, maybe reflect on yourself. I'm reflecting on myself. How can I do this better? What can I do better to serve God in whatever capacity he wants? I hope that helps you guys. I hope it speaks to you some. I hopefully will have some more active updates in about a week. I'll try to do a video before then, but we won't be actually doing much until my final team members get back so that they can show me what the heck to do. We're going to be doing evacuations, humanitarian aid deliveries, which I'm told is primarily water now. Man, we go through some water here. Good Lord. You don't quite realize how much water you go through until you can't use the water in the tap. Yeah. And then medical trainings. I was sorting through that gear yesterday. For all of you that have helped in any way with the acquisition of that equipment, thank you. And on behalf of the people that I have not even met yet that will be trained or given equipment based on your giving, thank you. On behalf of them. Let's go be part of a new God story, guys. Go find your own. It does not have to be in a far-off place. But I do believe that if we are lacking the fruit of the Spirit, then are we sure the Spirit is living in us at all? I'll see you later.